Hello, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap-up for Friday, March 8th, 2013. Well, the answer is no. The president cannot and does not have the power to use drone strikes on Americans on U.S. soil as long as they're not armed, as long as they're not doing something evil like 9/11 or Pearl Harbor. But that's what Rand Paul got out of his 13-hour filibuster. Brennan got, confirmed as the CIA director, and he basically filibustered. He wanted an answer. Do you think you have the power to kill Americans with drone strikes who are unarmed, who are not engaged in military activity? Do you think you have the power to do that on U.S. soil? And finally, the president, through his Attorney General Eric Holder, said in a very simple letter, the answer is no. He said this was legal before, but now it's no. And I'll tell you when things really got ugly, and not only did, Rand Paul and some other Republican senators, but when liberal Democratic Senator Ron Wyden stepped in and said, hey, what's going on with this drone strike program? Do you think you have the power to do it? Wyden, a liberal Democrat, that was an uh-oh moment for the White House. You can't pass it off as some, partisan politics when, a high-ranking, very liberal member of your own party says, hey, wait a minute, yeah, that's a good question, that's valid. And Wyden's been trying to get information from the Obama White House for a couple of years on the foreign drone strike policy, where we're killing Americans in countries where we don't have declared wars. The whole program is secret. And here's another question. Who gets to decide who lives and who dies and why? Where is the congressional oversight? There is zero. None. Nunca. Nada. I mean, I get it that if we're at war in a country or we're fighting bad guys in a country and they're getting ready to do something bad, they're plotting something bad, yes, I get it. Drone strikes, cool, good, got it, okay? But, we basically, kill people for political reasons now, including a 16-year-old boy in Yemen. Now, where we're using these are top secret, but, we've been in Yemen. We have used them in Pakistan. We don't have declared wars in either of those countries, but clearly the reporting shows we're killing people. Some people call it the drone murder program. Not only American citizens, but citizens of other countries where we don't have declared war. And I think this should open up a lot more questions about transparency. The Obama administration doesn't want any real oversight for all this. And I say, where are the liberals on this? Finally, yesterday, some liberals came out and said, hey, these are valid questions about how we're using this program, who gets to decide who lives and dies. Is this constitutional? Which I say it is not, even abroad. And, the liberal, where's Dianne Feinstein, who's a part of the Armed Services Committee? Why isn't she out, saying, hey, wait a minute, hold on a minute, whoa. I mean, you're from liberal San Francisco. And this is why Rand Paul is dangerous to both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. Why? Because, liberals might like what he's saying and do. And some Republicans might like what he's saying and do. And some of the middle might say, yeah, that makes perfect sense. America's supposed to be this bright, shining light on the hill. We're supposed to have a democracy. We're supposed to have due process. That's in our Constitution. Right of charge and trial and a fair trial. And to be, to have a charge. In this case, there's no charges. There's no trial. Just somebody on a joystick going, it's your turn to die. So I hope this opens up a much wider conversation about this for anybody who's been on USAWatchdog.com. I've been talking about this for a long time, and I am so happy that this is coming to light, and both Democrats and Republicans are saying, hey, wait a minute, we need to take a long look at this. It's totally unconstitutional, and I'm glad at least Americans on U.S. soil can't be killed using drone strikes. Well, the sequester hype was just that. Where the forced budget cuts about 2.5%, or if you want to do just the non-discretionary, discretionary spending, about 5%. We're not eating horse meat. The world continued to spin. The sun came up. They're still flying planes in and out of the airports. The hype was just that, a lot of hype. And I'll tell you, we need a lot more cuts. We take in 2.7 trillion or so. The spending is 3.8 trillion. 2.7, 3.8. Wow, that's more than $1 trillion spent extra every year. That doesn't count what we commit to. That's 6, 7 times higher than that. That's 6 or 7 trillion according to generally accepted accounting principles. I mean, they're cutting 85 billion this year in 3.8 trillion in spending. That's 3,800 billion. 85 billion cut out of 3,800 billion. And in terms of the sequester hype and how everything was going to grind to a halt, what is the TSA, the Education Department, Family Service, what are they doing with their budget that a few percent cut can grind them to a complete halt? The USDA? What are they doing with the rest of their money? And when they lose 3, 4%, 2%, 2.5%, whatever they lose, 5%, what is happening to the rest of their money? Why does their entire department come to a grinding halt, supposedly, when they have to cut, 3, 4, 5% out of their budget? Listen, we need to cut a lot more. We spend $1 trillion more every year than we're taking in. So $85 billion a year, that's not going to cut it. And we can't raise taxes high enough to make up for the spending. That's for sure. North Korea threatened the United States with a preemptive first strike. They're not happy about the accelerating sanctions that they just got. The West isn't happy with, yet another nuclear weapons test. I take these guys very seriously. A lot of people say, well, they're just children. Yeah, they're children with nuclear weapons. They've been test firing, launching over Japan. I find this a little unnerving. John Kerry, the new Secretary of State, has jumped right into the frying pan out of the fire. And, he says that things are escalating in Syria, and he's given them $60 million, which in the world of trillions isn't a lot of money, but, that's a civil war. Syria is the Hatfields and McCoys. That's, the Shia Hezbollah and the Sunni Al-Qaeda. And we're giving money to, a group of rebels that is backed significantly by Al-Qaeda. I didn't know there was a good Al-Qaeda and a bad Al-Qaeda. We're killing Al-Qaeda in Yemen, but we're giving them $60 million in Syria. The next thing John Kerry talked about was Iran, and he said that, useful time, his words, useful time is running out for Iran's, to negotiate on its nuclear program. Now, I don't know how many times that somebody can cry wolf before somebody pulls the trigger, but this is yet another very dangerous situation. The Iran thing, the Syria thing, North Korea, the tremendous, budget problems that America has, and yet the stock market is hitting new highs. Hitting new highs this week. That's absolutely unbelievable. A wealth manager said, we just know where all the money's coming from. Really? The Fed? Really? The Federal Reserve is printing money to prop up the U.S. economy, and that includes the stock market. They're buying bonds. They're propping up the stock market. If you feel comfortable with your investments in a market that is almost completely supported by the government, would have gone nowhere without all this money printing, you should stay in stocks. If you don't, you should be looking into doing what Bill Gross says and buy something that you can sink your teeth into. He is, of course, the head of PIMCO, the bond king, with a couple of $1 trillion under management. Buy tangible assets is what he's saying. I would listen to him. Finally, USA Watchdog, we had a week where we didn't get attacked. Yay. And also, I just want to, thank everybody for all your support, for the people coming here, for folks clicking on the ads on the site, or for the few people that use the donations button. Really appreciate your support in coming to the site and reading the material and commenting. Thank you very much for supporting USA Watchdog. That's the way I see it. Have a nice weekend.